No matter where you work, there are a couple expressions we hear all the time. People don't leave jobs, they leave managers. People buy from people they like and trust. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You never know who you will meet. The person you said hello at the networking party may be the very one who gives you the job or the right opportunity. What seems common in all these expressions is that people and the relationships we have with them matter very much. The question is, how can we do a better job at building better relationships if it's something that's so important? Hi, welcome to Dear Workplace by Innovators Box, where we study trends, changes, and challenges at work. I'm your host, Monica Kang, and today I want to explore all about why relationships at work really matter and what we can do to build better ones.
So I think for not being as important in the sales side, right, the relationship building side, you don't have to talk nearly as much as people think you do. You know, people work with who they like to work with. They have conversations with people that listen to them, right?
The biggest surprise to me for innovation was the relational influence and the relationship side of it. And it doesn't surprise me now knowing this for years, but I never knew how relational innovation was.
I've always believed in the importance of personal relationships with clients, with my co-partners here, with employees, just communication and being able to kind of be perceptive, understanding where different people are, and knowing that everyone has different communication styles. We all react to situations differently.
It's a different way of living in the world where we have to navigate systems that don't really favor people who look like me. So I've had to learn to just be vulnerable in that, to live in that space to where I'm not only calling it out in respectful ways, right? But I call it out with people that I built relationships with.
I wish I was more aware and more mindful, in my kind of figuring out phase. It would have helped a lot. It would have been less anxiety and less stress.
Building good relationships always mattered ever since we entered society as a child. From how it felt making our first new friends at school to how it felt when we were left out for being different. We carry these emotions and fear into our lives and careers. But unlike school, building meaningful relationships at work feels harder. No wonder as a coach, the question I get asked all the time is how can we build better relationships at work? Where do you start a conversation? How do you build friendships with someone older than you or with someone in a different hierarchy? How do you find mentors? How can you be friends with your clients? How do we find the right relationships at work? One movie scene I think about that's related to the pressure we feel about building the right relationships at work is one from the film La La Land. Mia, the main character played by Emma Stone, is feeling flustered because her friends are asking her to attend this huge networking event. She is tired of fitting in a box, but also doesn't want to feel left out. What if this is the event where she will meet the one? That someone who will give her the opportunity to be the actress she wants to be. Someone who will recognize her talent and see her as who she can be. How often have we felt this way as we enter any room in the workplace? Maybe just about every day?
You make the right impression, then everybody knows your name. We're in the fast lane, someone in the crowd could be the one you need to know, the one to finally lift you off the ground. Someone in the crowd could take you where you wanna go, if you're the someone ready to be found.
That's Ravi Ladd singing Someone in the Crowd from La La Land for us, as we can't have the original music without copyrights. Thank you, Ravi. I wanted to tune into this moment because the lyric brilliantly depicts how we often feel in life and work. We want to be a colleague that is liked, appreciated, and respected. As we build our careers and businesses, We want to find more people who will recognize and appreciate us for who we are. The irony? She doesn't meet that someone during the entire song. She only meets that someone when she stopped singing and was not expecting to meet someone. That's how the movie sequenced her meeting Sebastian, playing jazz at the restaurant. And as I think about today's conversation on relationships in the workplace, I wanted to bring to surface how true this is. Some of our most meaningful and crucial relationships were found not because we were looking for them, but because they were unexpected and were cultivated over time. Darren Slake shares how he's found so many unlikely allies and friendships in the most unexpected ways.
Shirt says, believe there is good in Indianapolis. And then the highlighted part is be the good. So it's not enough to believe that there is good, but we each have to embody the good and be the good.
Meet my friend Darren Slake. He founded his nonprofit, ProAct Indy, 11 years ago in Indiana to bridge the gap for vulnerable youth in underserved communities through human-centered social good. Through his programs, youth learn early on how to serve and give back to others while working with schools, businesses, and nonprofits to systematically break the cycles of poverty and racism. And as you hear from his voice, he is someone full of energy, positivity, and courage. But he wasn't always like this, because speaking in front of an audience really wasn't his thing.
Part of my story is that I have a stuttering problem. And as a kid, I physically couldn't talk sometimes. And even in college, because of my stutter, I had very low self-esteem and lacked social skills. And so I got involved in sports because a few adults encouraged me to get involved in sports at a young age because they saw that not only was I strong academically, but I had some athletic ability. So to get his social side to kind of cultivate, let's get this kid involved in some sports. So they got me involved in sports, went to college, and even then I was still struggling with low self-esteem issues because of my stutter. And my football coach had an opportunity to send 20 football players on a mission trip to Botswana, Africa. And that experience changed my life. I mean, as a stutterer, I didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of people at the time. And I couldn't afford the trip. And where I was in my walk of my faith, I didn't feel comfortable going overseas to share the gospel. And so I told my coach no at first. But somebody paid my way. It took away all my excuses. And so I go on this trip. And while I was practicing my story that I was tasked to share in Botswana, I couldn't get through it in practice because I had so much anxiety. But as soon as I get in front of the first group of villagers to share this story, there was no stutter at all. It was the first time in my life that I realized that I do not stutter if I speak in front of large groups of people. And I would have never have known that if I hadn't gone on this trip to Botswana, Africa.
Relationships made a difference in Darren's life. Rooted in faith, he was able to get over his fear of stuttering and pursue his business, all because someone believed in him. It's a really powerful moment. The feeling that someone has your back no matter what happens to you is an incredible relationship to have. And as Darren continues to reflect, he shares how sometimes we never know who those people will be until it's in hindsight. He shares another incident where he was having a difficult time and an unexpected person stepped up as an ally.
And so when it all seemed to come crashing down on me, a couple bad mistakes almost cost me to lose everything.
Darren was facing a dilemma. He was growing incredibly fast, but so was his fear and false expectation that he felt like he had to do everything by himself. As he went from an organization who served 12 kids to an organization that served 10,000 kids, he found himself hiding his fears and concerns. And if it wasn't for his friends who stepped up to hold him accountable for where he was heading, he'd be living a different reality today. Here is Darren sharing his story.
But in leading an organization that serves so many people, it's easy to forget that you don't know everything. I mean, even though many people expect you to. And harder is admitting that. Right? And I made all those mistakes. And oftentimes I felt like I was on an island with no one to talk to or no one to vent to. And I think oftentimes as innovators and entrepreneurs, we might feel like we're on an island because no one understands us. I mean, in Product's early days, no one could see what I could see. And I was like, is this so simple? Just listen. It was frustrating at times. But we grew at a point from 2010 to 2017, we grew from serving just 50 kids a year to 2,000 kids a year in that 7-year span. And then from 2017 to 2018, so just 1 year's time, we grew to serve 10,000 people in 1 year. That year was a turning point. I made all the mistakes of that pride and shame could afford you, right? I mean, withheld things from people close to me. I wasn't honest about things that were going on internally. I wasn't honest with myself even about what was happening. I wasn't comfortable confronting the hard, brutal facts that were right before me as a leader. And this is a year I was going through a lot personally that was taking me away from the things I was doing with ProAct and in the community. And so when it all seemed to come crashing down on me, a couple bad mistakes almost cost me to lose everything. And it was almost a decade of constant grind and commitment. And I was ready to give up. I mean, I was ready to throw everything down the drain and move on because I had a very public falling out with my board. And it hurt. It hurt to my core. So I was ready to say, all right, well, I'm just going to quit and go into the corporate world and live my life. But it was 6 words that really changed my life. It taught me a valuable lesson to be committed to always being a lifelong learner, to always being humble. And these words still bring tears to my eyes. I mean, there's one guy that stepped up and said, Darren, I'm not giving up on you. And those words and this person's subsequent actions, I mean, they taught me an important lesson about what it means to stand in the gap for someone. So if this guy wasn't willing to give up on me, why should I give up on myself, right? And this gentleman's name is Jeb Banner. He's the CEO at Boardable, which is an international company that's a nonprofit board management software. But he's currently our board chair and a very good friend of mine. But what he taught me was to own it, right? If you mess up, own it, right? As a leader, it is our responsibility to take charge and to take ownership over anything that happens with our organizations, with our own lives even, and own it. And ever since, I mean, he's proven not just to say those words, I'm not giving up on you. It's not enough just to say those words, but to demonstrate it in how he lives his life with me, as he sponsors me. He's at funding meetings with me, really sharing, hey, this guy is not his mistake. This guy is not what you read in black and white on the paper. There's more to the story. There's more around this white space. So listen, all right? He said those things in meetings to people that weren't willing to listen to me at that time. And he wasn't willing to let me give up on this 8-9 years of impact that we had, right? It was like, Darren, like, come on, get up and do something. So we talked about a turning point and what taught me those lessons and those skills. I mean, that was a turning point because what Jeb taught me in ownership and being humble and swallowing my pride and to live my life with radical vulnerability, it's been our saving grace. I mean, we've had our best year in the best years the past 3 years, right? We've tripled our budget. We've established our staff. We're talking about replicating our model into other communities now. And relatively, I mean, it's been a quick turnaround with where we were a few years ago. And so that turning point it really encouraged me that he was willing to stand in the gap for me because it encouraged me to stand in the gap for others, right? And that's our mission. ProAct's mission is to stand in the gap for vulnerable populations while empowering youth to actively transform their communities. And so because this guy was willing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, it cost me to be comfortable with the uncomfortable as well.
Finding friends who were willing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable with you and saying, I will not give up on you. That's invaluable. Darren reminded us how we should look out for those allies and friends, but also how we should proactively build those relationships and cherish them. Okay, but how do you find those allies and friends when you enter a new field or shift your career? Alice Hu understands this feeling. She had to rethink how she finds new customers and friends as she shifted her career from being a marketing executive to a workplace wellness entrepreneur. Honestly, she wasn't even sure of entrepreneurship in the beginning. The field is so different. Yet, she felt like something was missing based on who she saw was leading the industry and the ad agency that she worked at.
I started an email newsletter as a side hustle at that time, but always kind of felt like entrepreneurship was not for me because in my mind it was very risky and uncertain. You know, you're like in terms of success, like how well it would do and also how much it would pay you, right? And so I did the corporate life for a little bit, but in my late 20s, I just started to have this question more and more come up, like, is there something else? And I would speak to people, all my peers at the agency were like managing directors or head of their office, you know, like they were much older than me by like, we'd say average like 20 to 30 years. And with the ones that I felt close to, I'd ask them like, isn't there something more? I feel like a lot of times what we do is kind of like empty or it feels just like very mechanical. You're kind of like on a hamster wheel. And they're like, well, what else would you do? They're like, well, you're good at this. You're at a good company. Like, they're like, this is what you should be doing. You'd do something else and you'd want to come back. But it was just like this gnawing inside of me. And when I moved back to the US, like about 5.5 years ago, I went full time into entrepreneurship. I really changed everything because it just didn't feel right. That was the beginning of me understanding what emotions convey to you.
Today, Alice Hu is the founder and chief wellness officer at Woo Woo Company. Since 2019, she has helped individuals and organizations unlock the power of mindfulness through the programs that reframe reality and mindset. She has also been featured as a leading mindfulness expert in DC in places like Washington Magazine, Washington City Paper, and DC Friday Magazine. But as she shared a moment ago, she has gone through the journey of rethinking how new friendships and relationships could be built at work, especially as someone who made a career pivot. The law of attraction was one framework she found helpful. If you want to manifest new relationships, you have to seek it.
There's been a lot of different friends and strangers actually too. I believe that when you have set the intention that you need something, you need support, and you trust that the universe, a higher power, is there to help guide you, then they will send these people along your way. A couple years ago when I was like, okay, I'm starting this like wellness business, I suddenly just started to amass a bunch of people like who also were starting their wellness businesses in DC and who also were very wellness oriented. Like they just suddenly like came about, like 5-10 people. And it was very interesting because I had set the intention of like, like it would be nice to be able to relate to other people and not kind of bombard my friends who knew me from before with like, ooh, like human design, astrology, manifestation. Like it was a full moon yesterday and it was the luckiest day of the year yesterday. Let me tell you all about, like I want to have some boundaries, right? Like they didn't sign up for this. And there's a different part of the relationship that I value and I will weave some of this stuff in, but it doesn't have to be everything we speak about, right? Like a person in your life doesn't have to hold space for everything. And I would say it's been very interesting. I've had my yoga teacher be someone who's really helped me just step into this space initially, because that's how I got into this space. I had a regular yoga practice and I started it because I was like, I like the clothes. This is something I should be doing. There's studios everywhere. And I'm not embarrassed to say it because a lot of people, I mean, like athleisure, that's a big industry. I mean, that's what we're all wearing these days as well. And I was like, I just need to stretch. I want to be able to stretch in addition to the other things I do, but also it's a good workout. But what I realized is that yoga is an Indian philosophy, a way of living, bringing mind, body.
Now you have to do more to expand your circles of friends and allies than just wanting it. But setting an intention and committing to those intentions matter. I've gone through it myself. As I moved from nuclear nonproliferation to innovation to building Innovators Box, I realized I did not know a lot of people in innovation and entrepreneurship who I could speak and learn from. All my friends and mentors were either in government, science, or research and doing nuclear nonproliferation work. So as I set my intention, to be an innovation expert, I took the initiative to attend innovation conferences, workshops, reach out to experts, attend classes where I could hone my skills, read books of innovators, and look up more resources on what is out there and what is missing. And every action helped open new doors and opportunities to find new allies and friends. Because as Alice says, not all relationships are one size fits all, nor will they be everything for you. Some friends will be your peers. Some friends will be your buddy that you can catch up with about TV shows and good food. And some are mentors that we'll want to go back to for advice as we grow. We want all of those relationships, and if you are missing them, now you can set your intentions to find and build those relationships. Because hey, you never know. You may meet a business partner with whom you can set a new bar within an industry.
Good morning. I'm Candace Klein. I'm the president of Klein Contracting and the CEO of Meta Team and proud dog owner.
I was eager to meet with Candace, Erica, Alicia, Sherry, and Kelly to learn more about how they came together to build the Meta Team, the first and only national certified woman-owned commercial roofing company in the United States. Doing roofing business as a female is already quite a battle to face, as it's an industry that is still heavily male-dominant. Candace realized as someone who's been an expert in this space for over 2 decades, and as someone who knows a lot of other female experts, she could turn this table around.
I was looking at Klein Contracting's market and I wanted to grow the business. And in the commercial roofing space, there's really 2 common ways of growing your business. The first one is you acquire geography. So you go out and you buy another roofing company somewhere else. That had no appeal to me. We already work in 7 states. I didn't want to try to manage from a remote location. I didn't think that was right. And I thought, okay, well, the next thing I could do is diversify what we do, go into sheet metal, go into residential work, et cetera. And I thought, we have a really powerful workforce at what we do. And that just didn't seem the right fit either. So I was at a WeBank event.
WeBank is the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which is the most widely recognized certification for women-owned businesses in the United States. Innovators Box is also a WeBank certified company. And I'm also familiar with these massive networking events that Candace is speaking of. These are huge events that gather about 5,000 individuals annually to network. I've met so many incredible business owners and corporations who truly care about quality, diversity, and impact. So if you want to find new partners or mentors, Candace was right. This is a good place as an example to start.
I met our favorite person from a wonderful beverage company. And he said, why don't you put the women together? And I thought, wow, that's kind of brilliant. How would that look? What is that? Going back to college, what I wanted to do was bridge 2 different worlds. And I saw that this was an opportunity to not just grow in a better way. I could service my clients through other means. That is to say, I could find other brilliant women who were great at what they did in other markets in the United States who could make sure that my clients were well taken care of, while we also, as a team, then could provide national clients to people. So then the next step was who, right? How do you define who? And there are very few women roofing company owners. We are less than 1% of our industry, okay? So, you could fit us all in a phone booth, and out of that, you look around and you go, well, she's brilliant, and she's brilliant, and she's brilliant. And so literally, we've been building this network through, we know each other, we know of each other, at least through national conferences. And then you start the dialogue and you say, you ought to consider getting certified. And then after they get certified, maybe we should consider looking at this a little differently. Let's find a new way to build something. And that was probably about a 2-year journey. Building a business is not something that happens fast. You want it to happen fast, but it just doesn't. You have to go through a process and make sure you have the right culture fit.
Taking 2 years to find your co-founders as you grow your business is not an easy feat. That's a lot of patience, determination, and intention. But because of that, Candace and her team created something unique and impactful. And it's a sentiment each of them carry with care. Sherry Miles shares a bit more about how they feel about the work they do at Meta Team, how people come first over work.
I think each one of us believes that, the dignity of each of human beings. And in order to facilitate having a workforce in the future, we need to make sure that roofing is aspirational. We start now with teaching skills, basic skills, critical thinking skills to the next generation workforce. And I think each one of us has an understanding and a passion to help each person that works for us live into a purpose-filled life. And it sounds, really high in the sky, but I live that and believe in that so much. And I think that my partners do as well. And they really care about the people who work for us.
Really caring about the people who work for you and work with you. Relationship isn't just a one-sided or a static statement. It's a constantly evolving living thing. And the more we care and invest into them, the more we can flourish. Erica Jackson, co-founder of Meta Team, also shares why, especially as a leader, we should take every minute as an opportunity to connect with someone and build trust.
I would have to say this relates to business, but more so to all relationships. And it's something I'm working on, is being intentional and present to make sure that even if it's just 2 minutes of a conversation with the Amazon delivery person or a partner or with an employee, to be present and to be intentional about the communication so that people know I'm here, I'm listening, and I care.
To show that I listen and care, while those moments may feel small, it adds up. Think of how you feel about your closest allies and mentors. Those relationships were fostered because you had many moments when that person actively listened, was there for you, and rooted for you. And as you can imagine, when we have such relationships at work, we are more prone to innovate and try something different. Leo Chan, the former senior innovation lead at Chick-fil-A Corporation and now the founder of Abound Innovation, speaks more about how he learned how much relationships make a difference in innovation. By the way, we had such rich insights with the Meta team that we're excited to release a special bonus episode this week and has our full hour interview with the 5 co-founders. Stay tuned for more updates. Well, back to Leo for now.
I feel like the thing I would say that's most important to me is creating a safe space. So I call it psychological safety. And really it is that, because any type of act, I'm not even going to use the word creative, but any kind of a new thinking or different thinking is not only scary for organization, but it's also scary for the person sharing the idea. So I know this as I used to be a designer, right? Whenever I had any type of art that I'm designing, I couldn't let anybody look at it until it was completely done. So I realized I had this issue when I got married, and my wife would stand behind me sometimes and I'd be designing stuff on the computer and I'd be freaking out. Like, I thought she'd be staring at my screen. I'm like, oh, it's not ready yet. Don't look, don't look. I'm like, I'm like, can you just not be here and let me know? Like, I'll let you know when you can come in and look at the final product. Like, just don't. I had all this stuff going on in my head, and she probably was looking at the wall. And so this type of conversation happens to all of us when we're about to share something with somebody. So Monica, if I had a new idea with you, I literally have fear going on. At least I know for me. So if I'm like, Monica, I have this new idea. And if you responded to me with like, that was the worst thing I've ever heard, Leo. That's not going to work because of, we tried that idea 500 years ago. I would literally die inside. I would literally I might cry. I might run out of the room. I might never want to talk to you again.
How often have we felt that? Leo understands this feeling very well as someone who has been a catalyst of innovation in more hierarchical organizations like State Farm and Chick-fil-A. I asked him why relationships really matter at work and when innovating. Honestly, Leo says he was surprised at how important it was too.
The biggest surprise to me for innovation was the relational influence and the relationship side of it. And it doesn't surprise me now knowing this for years, but I never knew how relational innovation was, because what's happening is that you're trying to affect change, right? And change is highly uncomfortable for the majority of people. Most people don't like it. It's scary. it changes things. There's fear involved and all of that. So your relationship with somebody else, whether you're innovating, releasing a new product to the world, or if you're just changing a procedure or policy, it can be terrifying for some people. So if you have relational equity with someone and you're friends with them and you can explain to them, it kind of creates that safety and that trust to be like, hey, there's going to be some change happening, but hey, there's a reason and it's going to be good. And so I think that was extremely surprising to me, how important relationship equity was and having that relational influence with others, and how, you need that trust in order to affect and implement innovation in larger scales. I think especially in corporate environments, it's a very needed thing, but it's sort of unspoken. Like that wasn't in the book, right? I didn't read about relationship equity or relational influence. That wasn't in the Innovator's DNA book, but it's super, super important to actually be able to affect change.
That's a nice new word I want to think about next time too. Relationship equity and the impact it has on us. It's not just at work. Think about how you feel waking up knowing that someone has your back and that you have someone's back. That comfort and support reassures that we can have an extra dose of courage, humility, and optimism to look forward to. Even going to work knowing that I could be with someone I like working with feels different than going to an office where I couldn't connect with anyone. But just like how everyone shares earlier, even if you don't have that circle of surrounding right now, you can create it. Sometimes that means don't let your past experiences and surrounding define or limit who you can be and what new relationships you could form. Meg Ugenti shares how, for a long time, she had mixed feelings about her passion for marketing. It seems to require such attention to being a good talker. But how can you do marketing and sales well if you're an introvert?
I am personally an introvert at heart, which is very surprising considering my role and position. I was not the one that was going to, walk up to somebody and just start a conversation. I was very much the, wallflower in the corner my entire life. And I think when you get passionate about what you do, it's much easier to talk about it and inspire others. And I think that's probably what surprised me most in my journey. Not only do I get to inspire clients with new ideas and go with them on their journey to reach new customers, but I get to inspire a whole new generation of young marketers that are coming up in this industry that are more curious about data and technology than they probably were even 10 years ago.
Meet my friend Meg, Corporate Director of Marketing at Focus USA, and also my co-founder at Adapt to Grow, a data-driven marketing program to help businesses rethink customer journeys. Meg and I met at the WeBank conference a few years ago and became good friends. Yes, it's that event I spoke of earlier of a lot of women business owners coming together. Meg is one of the most thoughtful people I've met, and I appreciate her sharing how her love for marketing permitted her to rediscover how introverts could create an impact through active listening.
Not being as important, that's a really good question that nobody asks. So I think for not being as important in the sales side, right, the relationship building side, you don't have to talk nearly as much as people think you do. People work with who they like to work with. They have conversations with people that listen to them, right? And you don't have to be on all the time, right? You definitely have to emote like a good energy, but it has to be authentic. And I think the one thing that I learned, especially becoming a sales leader and developing new relationships and friendships, you can't just be, put on my suit and go to work and, have the car salesman pitch and you don't have to be like ready with your list of your sales pitch doesn't have to sound exactly the same, every time. It just doesn't come off as authentic these days. So I think that has been the one thing that's kind of gone by the wayside, is like the memorizing the script and the key points to highlight. And if you listen to the customers and you listen to your prospects about what their needs are, and you have a solid solution that you really truly believe can help them, it becomes more conversational.
Meg makes a great point. And this is how she and her team have not only empowered many new customers, but served many generations of marketers through community programs. As Meg shares, there has never been just one way of how you build relationship with customers or friends. And I was inspired by how she affirmed that cultivating those rich relationships have an impact on us. Today's conversation with my friends really reminded me of a quote I love by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. We all have the power to help shape a safe room and cultivate deeper relationships if we take the time to care for every few minutes of engagement. So it's up to us, not to others, to create and manifest that. So going back to that song that Ravi helped share from La La Land, that's someone in the crowd who could lift us off the ground. Maybe we can start by rethinking how we could be that someone for us and for others first. Be someone who invests in relationships and growth.
Is someone in the crowd the only thing you really see? Watching while the world keeps spinning round. Somewhere there's a place where I'll find who I'm gonna be. Somewhere that's just waiting to be found. Someone in the crowd could be the one you need to know. The someone who could lift you off the ground. Someone in the crowd could take you where you wanna go. Someone in the crowd could make you. Someone in the crowd could take you flying off the ground. If you're the someone ready to be found.
Special thanks to Ravi Ladd, our audio engineer, for both editing and singing Someone in the Crowd from La La Land for us. This was Monica Kang, your host at Dear Workplace. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thanks to the Meta team, Meg, Leo, Darren, and Alice for sharing your thoughtful insights for today's episode. Next, we'll be exploring more about innovation. How do we find the courage to innovate when everything continues to change? And how was the pandemic impacted how we innovate? Bring your questions and thoughts, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, hi, I'm Kelly, a creative intern at Innovators Box, and I hope you're enjoying Dear Workplace. Through this podcast, I've loved challenging myself beyond all the outdated advice I've been taught, while also reimagining my love for creativity and music business as a woman about to enter the workforce. This show is brought together by our awesome team: producer Saren O, audio engineers Sam Lemmert and Ravi Ladd, myself, Kelly Gravo on marketing, website designer Akriti Pandey, graphic designer Monica Escobar, and Luke Helder on music. And of course, Dear Workplace is hosted and directed by Monica Kang, founder and CEO of Innovators Box. To continue the conversation beyond the workplace, visit us at innovatorsbox.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. We would love to hear what you enjoy and what I can convince Monica to talk about in her future episodes. See you next week.